Hey everyone, it's Ivan, Cathatcher.com, here today to kind of wrap up my carnivore journey after on it about 2 years. If you've been following along on my carnivore journey, started about 2 years ago as of filming this, pretty much just eating meat as well as eggs and sometimes some dairy. Usually like heavy cream and coffee or hard cheeses sometimes, things along those lines. And pretty much exclusively that. Other than a few times kind of falling off because of travel or just because I wanted to. And yeah, bringing us kind of full circle. I initially started with blood work before I started, and then I think a month in, 2 months in, 4 months in, and then finally followed up a couple months ago now as of filming this, just because got it done, hadn't had a chance to come film, so here we are. I'll go through and show you images of this if these numbers mean things to you and you want to pause it and check it out. But kind of hitting high points, surprise, cholesterol still high. I think total cholesterol 413, LDL cholesterol 323. You're like, Ivan, you're gonna die. I will, so will everyone. Probably not for the same reasons. CRP, C-reactive protein, kind of a marker for inflammation, 0.3. Again, still really low. There was one thing that came up, which I was like, that's kind of interesting. And I think it was low in like B12 or something like that. So started taking a B multivitamin to supplement that. One thing that I regrettably did not do before I started, which I should have included in that first panel, was actually testosterone. Again, 44-year-old male, should be tapering off, which for most people it does, especially people in the military because of all kinds of things that some of which are still unknown. And yeah, finally got it tested after being on carnivore for about 2 years, and 942, which the range being 1100 on the top end to the low end of 250. Why is that such a broad range? Honestly, probably a participation trophy. If you're down that low, like something's probably really low, really wrong. Probably a lot of soy in your diet. But no, 942. And free testosterone 109.4, if that means anything. Am I supplementing with anything? No, eating meat. So there's that. The other part, again, wish I had done it when I started, didn't, kind of went through it, but at the same time I ended up getting my blood work, I ended up getting a in-body scan. And again, just kind of high points, 172.6 pounds, skeletal muscle mass, 87.3, percentage of body fat, 11.2. What else is meaningful on here? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Intercellular water, 70.3 pounds, which that's kind of wild. But those are my numbers, 44-year-old male, just under 6 foot, like 5'11" or something. So that's where I'm at after about 2 years on carnivore, pretty much just eating meat. Except did I ever eat other things? Yes, there were times I absolutely ate like a dumpster because I either didn't have a choice or I made that choice. And some of it hinges on like traveling, staying with people, or even family. And it's like, oh, cool, you're cooking that for dinner. That's awesome. I'm glad you're making pasta. Do you mind cooking like a pound of hamburger for me? Probably not a very realistic request for most people. Or just, yeah, be in places where you're going out to eat because of an event or an occasion. You're like, yeah, I would like 2 ribeyes and keep everything else, which I've done before. Gets expensive. People look at you kind of weird, whatever. But then there's also times where, yeah, I'm just going to make a conscious choice. By way of example, I love ice cream. Like I will sit down and crush like 3 pints of ice cream in a sitting. I love ice cream. Do I do that all the time? No. Is it good for you? No, absolutely not. But sometimes I will because, again, I enjoy it. Although, big picture, how has carnivore done for me? Like, I think it's done really good. And for me personally, there's definitely been a number of benefits. one aspect of it, which is important for me, is athletic performance. So you have glycogen stores, which are basically that fast, quick energy and largely replenished with sugars. So if you go full out, and when I say full out, I mean like sprint till your heart's about to explode and your lungs are trying to keep up, like, yeah, you can only do that for so long, especially on carnivore. Like, it doesn't play super well. How often do I do that? Not very often. A while ago we did, I think it was like a 50 cals 4 time on the Echo bike, which was terrible. And I think I finished in like minute 30, something like that. And then basically sat around for a half an hour and threw up a couple times. It was not pleasant, but I was able to do it. Like, okay. Did I get the best time? Absolutely not. But you can do that. But then on the flip side, like, where is it really a benefit? Well, your blood sugar isn't getting spiked throughout the day and you have a constant energy level. So where does that apply? Well, like for me personally, out in the mountains, stuff like that. A while ago, I did a video on the value of doing hard things. And one of the things I referenced was basically skiing out about 6 miles when it was negative temperatures, doing a bunch of shooting, and then skiing that 6 miles back in darkness. What was I working on? I think maybe 2 cups of coffee with some heavy cream in it. That was it. And then when I got back home, had some food, some meat. Or at the tactical games, for example. I ended up actually competing 2022 down in, I think, like Phoenix, Arizona, somewhere around there. And what was I working on? In the morning, a cup of coffee with some heavy cream. And then in the afternoon, I think maybe before like my last event of like 3 events each day, have some like hard cheese I'd cut up with some salami. That was it. Was my athletic performance during any of those deteriorated? No, not really. At the tactical games, I was not going to go harder if, oh man, if I only had like a gel or ate a couple donuts, carb load. Like, no, not at all. What I had was what I had. I couldn't have pushed harder. And again, skiing out in the mountains, again, wasn't going to go harder. And to that end, like just skiing, like downhill skiing. Again, cup of coffee, some heavy cream, fat, and yeah, go ski through, finally come back home sometime in the afternoon around 2 or something and have lunch. Spend the day on the mountain, get like 18, 20 runs in. Again, no degradation with respect to athletic performance. If there is one, it's in this really, really narrow band where it's like absolute maximum output in a super short period of time, which no matter what, like that'll pretty much break you. But the recovery time for me personally tends to be longer without the introduction of sugars, otherwise known as carbohydrates. So from an athletic performance standpoint, absolutely it's been great because it's this sustained energy that just lets you go and accomplish things without these ups and downs with respect to blood sugar and kind of activity level. So yeah, it's been really good. One of the things carbohydrates do for you is they hold on to water. So when you first start down the road to carnivore, you'll lose all this weight and it's pretty much all water weight. But you need to make sure you're hydrated. So for me personally, salt intake went way up. By way of example, when I get up in the morning, and when I say salt, just across the board, just stay hydrated, electrolytes, stuff like that. So get up in the morning, have a glass of water with like half a teaspoon of salt in it. Some people are like, what about going poop? How is it even possible without a bunch of fiber? So I guess to that end, the question to you would be, how do you think like fiber works in your body to help you like go poop? Is it magic? You just eat it and then you go poop more, right? So what if, as a concept, that fiber, insoluble fiber, goes through your body and then gets into your like intestines and colon and just aggravates it so much that your colon's like, get this out of here right now. What if it worked like that? So yeah, you will absolutely still go poop. You just won't go poop like 5 times a day, like on a high fiber diet. Are there any drawbacks, downside, things like that? I don't know. Again, I love ice cream, so I just occasionally have ice cream. I think overall for me, the benefits are really positive. One, you end up, speaking for myself, basically just kind of leaning out to what your body is like, hey, like this is a comfortable weight, and sustained energy, especially if you're not at that super top end threshold of like sprints. And yeah, just it works for me. Does it get boring just eating like meat and some cheese and stuff like that? I don't know, not really. I mean, there's actually a lot of different kinds of meat. Is it more expensive? If you're eating like top ramen every day, like absolutely more expensive. For most people, it's probably not really any more expensive. And yes, there is a disparity as far as, hey, I'm gonna go get this like Tyson chicken, or I'm gonna go get this that's like actually organic or well-sourced meat from somewhere. For me personally, end up a lot of game meat. My boys and I have our freezer stocked with deer, hopefully some elk this next year. And yeah, that definitely supplements it. Other things, I don't know. Is it for everyone? I don't know. Like, first and foremost, I'm not a doctor. What about all the things that the FDA says? Like, what about the food pyramid or like pie graph or whatever? Yeah, I mean, you could go that route. I mean, the messenger matters. If people that are morbidly obese, or maybe someone that was like the CEO of Monsanto or on their board of directors and then rotates through as like the head of Food and Drug Administration, like you may or may not question that. Do you usually get good information from the government? Maybe. I don't know. Is there an epidemic of obesity in America? Maybe. That's weird. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, you do you. You're like, but I have high cholesterol, it's going to kill you. It would, and maybe it still will. I don't know. But high cholesterol in and of itself really isn't the issue. When you have inflammation and all these other things, and then you end up with type 2 diabetes, heart disease, lifestyle diseases. Like, yeah, high cholesterol is a bad thing at that point because you pretty much wrecked your whole body. Like, you did, no one else did. Like, you're in charge of that. So yeah, high cholesterol when you have all those other markers, definitely a bad thing. Is it a bad thing for me? I don't think so. Time will tell. But yeah, at the end of the day, you do you, man. And as always, thanks for joining us at capebadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.